sorry. I am so sorry. I'm getting calls. I got Theo in here. Yeah, we're a little late. That's on me. But
We're
promise
still
you it's
here.
worth it. We're still here. And we're still giving you DFS plays. It'll be worth it. I
That's right.
promise you. It's a two-man show today, and it's just me and Adam. Just Adam and I. Me and Adam. Me and Adam. It's not Adam and I because it's not I. It's me. Me and Adam. How you doing, Adam?
I'm
welcome
good.
to welcome to a nice little just a pairing, a duo, going over some DFS here. WinDailySports.com. Sharp.link. That's the app you can use to download. The link you can use to download the Sharp app. Google Play Store, Apple App Store. And you can go over there, get some plays for tonight's NBA action. And also, we have NFL tonight, and we're going to do the NFL DFS stream right after this. But all of that for your betting plays all over at the Sharp app, sharp.link. All right, let's get into it. Now, this one, we went 53 minutes yesterday.
We're not going that
I think
long
even
there.
longer than that. We went like 54 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to for this one. I think
We're
we
not
can keep
doing
it a little bit shorter. But we have a 3-game slate tonight. So I guess with this one, Ghost always says you kind of have to plant your flag somewhere. You plant your flag on a narrative. Yesterday it was more kind of plant your flag on what games you like and then kind of work from there. But this one, it seems like you're kind of having to base this off of narratives, how you think some of these games are going to go. Where are you, as Ghost would say, planting your flag on this slate?
So, if you look just at what Vegas is telling us, all these games are fairly similar. The totals are between 211, 215. Really, the biggest difference is the Pacers and the Jazz game has a 10.5 point spread. And now, normally that doesn't really bother me. Like, unless it gets like 12, 13, I don't really account for blowout.
Yeah.
But the Pacers are going into Utah after playing in Denver last night. This is not an easy spot. So for me, I'm almost treating this as a 2-game slate. Like, if the Pacers and Jazz beat me, that's what happens tonight. I'm fine with that. So I've pretty much discarded those two teams, and I'm working with the shortened 76ers rotation still, even with now they're saying Tobias Harris may or may not play. They'll determine his availability for pregame. So regardless of whether he's in or not, they're still going to be short. And then we know Jimmy Butler is out for the Heat. So those are pretty much my main focuses tonight.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of that game, I imagine, because, at least with the Heat Clippers because of Butler, but a lot of Philly, maybe a lot of Heat. Let's start with Philly just to get this one out of the way because I know this one's more difficult, and I don't want to wait later on and just keep doing the whole, we don't know anything yet. So let's just go through a few of the scenarios here because there are a few. Tobias Harris, it seems like that he'll be available to play, but the Sixers aren't really committed to whether or not they are actually going to play him on his first available day back from the COVID list.
Right.
But even if he does, let's say he does come back, there's no tag on here. He comes back. How does that change things? It's still an Andre Drummond day, no matter what, because he's the only center. But how does that change things if Tobias comes back?
So let's just pretend Tobias is in. For me, it doesn't change a thing with Drummond. This is a guy that is, in the past 2 games, he's averaging 30.5 rebound chances per game. Now, granted, like 10 of those are coming off his own misses, so he can just gobble up offensive rebounds. They still count. I still get points for them. So 30.5 rebound chances per game is just absurd. He's still going to play 32 to 35 minutes, basically guaranteed. So for me, Drummond, Bam Adebayo, who we'll talk about in a minute, and Precious Achiuwa are probably the 3 of the top 5 plays on the slate. Now, the bad thing about DK is you can only fit 2 of them. Yeah. So my focus right now is to plug Drummond into the center, and then I'm probably leaning Bam later, but we have to put Bam in utility, and we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so Drummond to me, yeah, that's the one. It doesn't change things. Now,
no.
Some players are priced up. Like Maxey's a little priced up here. Seth Curry at 5,900. He's got that questionable tag on him though. How does Harris change that? Like Maxey still is the only ball handler, one of the only ball handlers. So I don't know how much changes with Maxey or maybe Milton. But how does that change things with Korkmaz, Niang? Sort of with those guys, that's where the rotation shifts here a bit.
So when we're looking at this, to me, I really wasn't going to play Maxey anyways. I mean, 6,800 is a little bit much.
Yeah, that is getting way out of hand.
That's getting to be a luxury. And if Harris is back, that just means even fewer shots than 24 he took last game. Like, if you look at his game logs beforehand, he took 19 and 24 these past 2, which, okay, I understand. Before that, you're looking at 9, 12, 10. That's not, I don't want to pay 6,800 for a guy that's taking like 9 shots a game. That's just not going to get it done.
Yeah.
So with me, I'm kind of discarding Maxey, pretending Harris is back. But we're still looking at, let's count. We have Tobias Harris, probably, Drummond, Maxey, Milton, Cork, Niang, Green. And that's still it. Like, this is still a very shortened rotation, whether Curry and Harris are back or not. So I'm looking at, I'll save $1,800 off Maxey. Buddy, I'm going to go right back to Furk and Korkmaz. He's still going to play a ton of minutes, whether it's starting, whether it's off the bench. This is a shooter who we know what he brings to the table.
And he's not going to go 2 for 18 again.
He's not. And he burned the entire field last time. And at the last look, I'm pretty sure he's under 10% ownership projected.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Like, that's
perfect
crazy
to go back to that spot.
It's
isn't
absolutely
it?
perfect. The Raptors are in the bottom 10 in 3-point frequency allowed and 3-point field goal percentage allowed. If he's playing 30 minutes, he's going to take another probably 9, 10 threes, whether Curry or Harris is back or not. And nobody's going to play him this time.
Yeah, I like the idea of going back to Korkmaz a lot, actually, because he's going to get, the same thing he's been getting the last 2 games, 18, 16 attempts.
Right.
But they're going to drop. He's not going to have a 2 for 18 day again. That's just not going to happen.
If he does, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's just variance and it's still the right play. And it's
right.
Yeah,
it could be.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you tell me he's going to take that amount of shots, I'm going to play him at 5K, 100%. Especially when he's low owned, like, you don't always want to play shooters like that when they're high owned because the variance is there. When they're low owned, that could be a GPP winning play if he's still literally under 10%.
Yeah, so I like him. And there's a better chance that, I think with what you're saying here too, is that there's a better chance that Korkmaz, plays out for his value or goes over his value more than Maxey does at 6,800. Like, there's just a better chance of that happening. No, I like that play a lot. And actually, let's look at the Toronto side too, because Siakam's out, Khem Birch is out. Is there some value here in Toronto players as well that you would like?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, if you don't want to take the chance, because Bam did pop up questionable, they played OT last night. If you just want to lock in probably one of the better plays on the slate, you can just play Precious. He's only 4,200. Ghost hit on this yesterday. We got Precious at 1%. That's not going to happen today, unfortunately. But Birch is out. Now Siakam's out. It's who else is playing in that front court besides Precious right now? Because Chris Boucher's nailed to the floor of the doghouse. Like, he played 7 minutes yesterday. You can't really, like, I know Drummond's on the other side, but you can't really buy into Boucher getting any type of run here. So Precious probably plays at least 30, 32 minutes to try and match Drummond. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, 4,200, he could at least 10x that salary. So if you don't want to take the chance on Bam, by all means, play Precious. Gary Trent Jr. is still fine for me at 5K, kind of the same boat as Korkmaz. If you refuse to go back to Korkmaz, plug in Gary Trent for the same exact price. That's another guy, can get hot. Can shoot the lights out on some nights. He can just go nuclear at that price tag.
So, as you mentioned it a couple times, I want to go to it. Miami, Butler out, and you keep mentioning Bam Adebayo. Is there a risk, I guess, to Bam Adebayo here? So
there has to be some risk because Jimmy Butler gets ruled out, and then a couple hours later they add to the injury report. Bam goes questionable, Tyler Hero goes questionable. And these guys were questionable yesterday, in all fairness. So I don't want to pretend like there's
this
just
is
no
completely
risk
new. Yeah.
Right. There's definitely some risk, but that's why we can put Bam into the utility slot, and then it's pretty simple to slide down to Kyle Lowry if he's out, because as long as Bam's in 7,400 with buckets off the floor, this season he has a 32% usage rate and a 1.56 fantasy point per minute against the Portland front court. Like, he's probably at least $1,000 too cheap here, if not almost 1,600. He should probably be pushing 9K for this situation if we know he's healthy.
By the way, just official, Achua is starting.
Yeah,
we always look at minutes over starting, but yes.
It's not really a surprise, and I don't think that would have affected Achua either way. But it's nice to know that that's where they're playing.
Yeah. So I guess, are you okay with playing both Lowry and Adebayo, or is that one where you're kind of putting one of those in and rolling with that? How are
Oh,
you
listen,
playing the Heat here?
I'm totally fine playing Lowry, but Ghost preaches it, so in his absence, I have to preach it. Primary ball handlers against the Clippers every time.
Yes, yeah, that's. I almost
Tyler
forgot about it. How did I forget about that?
Tyler
Primary ball
Hero
handlers against Miami.
Tyler Hero probably still won't start, I would assume. I don't think they'll really throw him into the lineup. I could be wrong, but regardless of whether he does or not, he has a much higher usage rate than Kyle Lowry this year.
Yeah.
He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton on the perimeter. He's not really going to see Paul George defense. For me, I'd rather just save the $1,000 and be able to play around with my lineup because I'm trying to fit Bam. I'm trying to fit Drummond. I still want Paul George here. So that $1,000 is vital to building this lineup. So for me, I'm playing Hero over Kyle Lowry every time.
Ooh, I like that. So, and that's the Paul George question of, he is the only, if we're looking at this,
he's the only guy over 10 grand.
The only guy over 10K. The only other one is Embiid, and of course he is out. So is he the only one? It's because I guess you can look at the 9K range. 8K we're getting a little bit closer to 7K, mid range here. But
right.
in terms of like the 10, 9K guys, like is he the only one? I know Sabonis. We love Sabonis, and it's never a terrible play. But are you going to be forcing in any of these 9K guys as well?
If I'm playing anybody, it's going to be Donovan Mitchell.
Okay.
Brogdon is back, and that does kind of hurt the potential individual matchup. But man, this is such a bad spot for Indiana. Mitchell, or excuse me, not Mitchell. Brogdon drives to the basket at the second highest rate in basketball. Well, Rudy Gobert is waiting in the paint, so that's not going to end well a ton of times for Brogdon. We look at Sabonis; he has the second most field goal attempts as the roll man on the pick and roll. Well, Rudy Gobert is still standing there in the paint, and he's one of the better pick and roll defenders so far this season. Yeah. It's not ideal. Yeah. So if you're in that 9K range, it's kind of Mitchell by default, and I'm never going to tell you don't play Donovan Mitchell. But again, that 1,000 from Hero to Lowry, that could be the difference between Mitchell and Paul George.
Yeah, so it looks like here with Hero, we could save 1,000 there. We want Paul George at 10K, Drummond at 8.6K. It basically with this here, and we're kind of anchoring with George, Drummond. We're going two centers. It looks like, would you be fine with the two centers here, Adebayo and Drummond?
I will have two centers in that lineup regardless of almost every single lineup tonight because it's either Drummond, Precious, or Bam. A mix of those two.
Awesome. Okay, so a combination of those.
Yep, in every lineup.
So basically looking at this with 3 spots left, can we find anything in the 4K range, 4K range here? Like, would you be all right with this being your foundation and then going with some 4K guys?
So in my single entries, this is my foundation. This is exactly how my lineup is set up.
Nice.
So I'm definitely okay with it. What I'm going to tell you guys is to make sure you're checking the model because we're in a similar situation we were with the Nuggets last night in that a lot of the Heat guys are chalk, and they should be because you don't have Butler. Don't forget about the guys still coming off the bench because there's value guys there that nobody's touching because everyone's running for the other guys that everybody knows, and Bam and Hero and Lowry are all good plays. I'm not telling you they're not. But there's some other guys in that model right now that are kind of popping that are very, very cheap and makes this whole core work that I can still afford.
One of those guys, I'll just bring it up. Obviously there are a lot of plays in the model. Duncan Robinson. Is he one of them?
He is.
Because you're likely going to see an increase. Look at the 45 minutes.
Yep. He's not going to leave the court a ton, and especially on DK where that 3-point ball is worth the bonus. That's all he does. Like he shoots threes. Yes, there's volatility, but he's such a good shooter at 38. He's probably not going to kill you for the minutes he's going to get tonight.
And with the amount of minutes and the amount of shots, and with his shooting percentage, even if he has an off night, it'll be really hard for him not to
at least give you 20.
There. Yeah, especially at 3.8K. Like you're not really risking too much there with Duncan.
No, you're not. Anyway. And then you can still build around a little bit more of that the 5K range because I still really want a guy like Nick Batum because we look at the spot up numbers for the Heat defensively. They allow the most points to spot up shooters in the league. Nick Batum's in the top 10 in points scored off spot up shooting. and they allow the highest frequency of 3-point shots. Well, what does Nick Batum do really, really well right now for the Clipper team? He's shooting threes lights out right now. And I'm not telling you, okay, he's going to shoot 46% from deep all season. But that's his whole game right now is that's what he does.
Yeah. So I think I'm actually going to leave it at that because I think we did really well. And well, I'm just saying if these last couple of picks that we can go over, basically just go to the model for it.
Exactly.
See what's popping in the model. See if you can get anything in this range, or maybe have to switch things around and go a little bit cheaper in a spot. But I think this is a good place to stop right here because I think went over very well. And some clear plays, too, in that mid-range and the top as well. But if you were to choose one tonight, PG-13 or Mitchell, it would be Paul George, right?
Even
if you're going a little like 1K, almost 1K higher. But I think it's Paul George. Yeah, Paul George. Paul George is truly the only – and Donovan Mitchell's a stud, but we're talking about a 10K guy, like 10K. Like Paul George is legitimately the only one.
And don't forget, no Jimmy Butler defense either, which is that's a big bump to his matchup. Like,
but he's very clearly the top player on the Clippers. He's one of the top players on the slate.
Right.
He's going to get so much volume. It seems like he's the only one that fits that bill here.
You have enough comfortable value in my eyes that you can very easily still build around him.
Yeah, I completely agree. So go to the model, check that out if you need some value plays. We went over a little bit of them here. Duncan Robinson we identified as one, but I think the model is perfect once you do have your core foundation to find some guys to fill in because it's going to be there. You're going to be able to find it, whether it's the Sixers, whether it is Toronto, or whether it is Miami, or even looking on the other side of the Clippers. There are some plays here, and it doesn't seem like we're going too much into that Indiana-Utah game.
No, listen, if you want to grab, one player or something like that, like that's what makes your lineup work with the core guys.
Right.
No problems with that. But that would be the last game on my list to try and pull people from. It's probably one of the worst game environments of the night.
Love it. So go to the Discord chat. We'll be going over your lineups, especially my guy Adam here at BuckN4Life. That's where you can follow him on Twitter. Follow me at JJansen34. This was all sponsored by the Sharp app. Sharp.link is where you can go to find out or to get links to where you can download all of the Sharp app, whether that's the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store or wherever you get your apps, sharp.link. We're actually going to be still here, still live, coming up in just a few minutes. We'll go over some NFL DFS Showdown. It's a weird one tonight. It's probably a lot of Ravens. We'll talk about that coming up next. You've been tuned in to the NBA DFS Preview Show right here on WinDailySports.com.